there are many different ways of representing vectors, and I have a few of the most common ones I've come across written in here. And so one way is just putting this little arrow above the f, or above the variable name that you're choosing. I'm using f here because a lot of the times when you first encounter vectors, it's through force. So you can add a little arrow above to indicate that this variable actually represents a vector, or you can, just add a little bar across the top. It really just depends on what you prefer. I've seen some people throw dots on the top, or if you're viewing it in text, it'll be bolded. And so some of the other ways is to write it in these component methods. So you have these little brackets here, and in the brackets it'll go f of x, which is the x component of f, and then f of y, f of z. And if you keep going on to higher and higher dimensions, you can just add more and more as you go. And then again, you can do those sharp brackets, or you can just do braces, parentheses. It doesn't really matter. It's all about preference. And then these are two other ways to represent it. This first one is by using like x hat, y hat, and z hat, which will tell you more about the direction that it's going in. Well, it tells you the same amount, but it's just sometimes it's nicer to write it that way. Then this is just called IJ form, and it's just basically the same thing except different variable names. And so to find the magnitude of a vector, what you do is you take the square root of the sum of the squares of each component of the vector. And so if you have like a 10-dimensional vector, you will do the same thing, except in here you just keep going on with all the different squares of the components. So there's no limit to how large your vector can be. So let's look at a little bit of example. So if you're, let's say, given a vector, and I'm just going to do 2 dimensions for now, but you can expand that to 3 if you really want. We're going to do 3, 2. And so, this first part is going to be our x component, which is a length of 3. And the second part is going to be our y component, which is a length of 2. And so we'll want to draw that out. And now this gives us a little bit of a triangle. And if we mark the point at the end, mark point at the beginning, all we do now is draw a vector from the origin, or from your initial point, to that final point that's created. And that gives you the vector. So now this vector is f. And this length here of from here to here would be the magnitude of f.